recording. Actually, I made several. Um, Let me see. Wait a minute. Okay, yeah. I made several revisions actually on the PowerPoint. So my apology if there are some parts that are not really included your PowerPoint. I'm going to update it though. So it's not really major revision. So whenever I take a look at it and I feel like I need to add something, then I just did it. So after the class, then I will upload the PowerPoints. But anyway, you can still take a look at your PowerPoint, or you can simply follow the screen where I'm going to show you my PowerPoint. Okay, my voice is clear enough. All right, let's move on. Okay, we will just turn to lesson 1, introduction to BHS. Okay, and also we will need to deal with textual criticism. But I know most of our students, former students, were really struggling. Uh, so I know it's not going to be easy, but I will see how I can deal with it. If you find it really hard to understand, then I may just extend the session to next class. Okay, so don't worry, I'm very flexible. So although we have a schedule, we can just move flexibly. Okay, so introduction to BHS. Let me move on. I just spent some time to explain why we needed to study Hebrew 3, especially in dealing with the Hebrew Bible. As I said and emphasize all the time, it's not really likely you will need to read the Hebrew Bible. But when you are preparing your sermons or when you are writing on academic paper, it's most likely that you have to be engaged with this Hebrew reading, especially using your PHS. So I saw the proud faith of our brother Chikara showing me his BHS Bible. So I'm expecting that you at least have this BHS Bible, okay? So we are going to talk about how to use your BHS. You need to understand, all the contents included in your BHS. Okay, let's move on. Okay, as I just told you briefly, the text of BHS is a reproduction of L, which means the Leningrad Codex. Okay, such an important word, Leningrad Codex. So that is one of the Hebrew manuscripts. Okay, and it is dated early, quite compared to other manuscripts. I think, if I'm not mistaken, AD 1800. So, I mean, 8008 year. So it is relatively quite late one and old one. So we prefer old one over what the late one, because older one has more authority because it is close to the original text. Do you know what I'm saying? So Leningrad Codex is the first, the whole Hebrew Bible. That's why people pay a great deal of attention to BHS. So 11th century AD medieval manuscript in the Tiberian tradition. So when it comes to the Hebrew Bible, there are a couple of traditions. So we are going to talk about it. But anyway, Leningrad Codex and BHS, they are based on Ben Arsha tradition, which is quite important. We are going to talk about it later. Leningrad Codex is one of the Masoretic texts, and Masoretes were the Jewish scholars who labor in the preservation of the biblical text between the 6th and 10th century AD. You know, As I just explained last week, it's amazing to see how carefully our Hebrew Bible has been preserved. Have I explained that, they even counted the numbers of all words, and then they just put the location of the midpoint? Whenever they feel like, okay, we are going to talk about this in terms of textual criticism. When the majority scholars found suspicious, words, they are quite sure that this is miswriting. Okay, they are confused with, the letters, and then they omit some letters there when they are writing one letter. So there are two, with one letter repeating, and then they forgot to write one. So there are different kinds of what is a possible error, you know, scribal errors. We're going to talk about it very briefly. So they are thinking like, okay, this one must be an error, obvious error, and they don't want to change it. They didn't want to change. Instead of changing it, they put their comments on the margin. That's why we have a lot of stuffs here. Okay, it's not just about Hebrew letters, right? Can you see the margin? And there are a lot of information. So they really carefully try to preserve the Bible, although they know that that is an obvious mistake. You know, in the process of writing and copying the manuscript, mistakes could take place. So although they knew it, they didn't change it, but they just put their comments. Oh, it is most likely an error, so we need to read this word instead of this. So it is, quite important process of textual criticism. You will be amazed anyway. So that's it. Let's move on. Um, what is this? Sorry, I think I need to open this one with another, or I need to animation. I want to make it clear. But anyway, forget about it. Sorry about the boxes with the dot. But anyways, it's the Leningrad Codex. Okay. If you have a Bible Works 10, that's amazing. This whole series of Leningrad Codex is included there in Bible Works 10. That's why it's relatively bigger than Bible Works 8. So if you can download Bible Works 10, please go ahead. That's amazing. The whole codex is there. Okay, so this is the Leningrad Codex. And I was just to show you another thing. Okay, I just did enlarge the first part. Can you recognize any words? Okay, let's just start from here. The first part. Yeah, can you read?
Bereshit.
Be, re, shit. Go ahead. Good job.
Paro.
Bara. Oh, very good. And then
Elohim.
Elohim.
Elohim. Whoa, Hebrew scholars. I'm very proud of you guys. And then the second line,
8.
et.
At
Uh-huh. Et.
Hashamim.
Shamainu.
Shamayim.
Yes. Ha.
Shamayim.
Shamaim.
Ve.
Ve.
At
Et.
It.
Ha.
Eret.
Eretz.
Now you can guess which passage it is. What is it?
Genesis 1.
In the beginning.
Genesis 1:1. It's very impressive. Are you proud of yourself reading
Very
this
proud.
Hebrew Bible? Leningrad Codex. What is it? Bereshit, in the beginning, bara, created. He created. Elohim, God. Et, what? Ha, Shemaim, the sky,
Heaven.
and et haaretz, the
The
earth.
earth.
So anyway, this is it. And then as you can see that even in the Leningrad Codex, you can see the margin and space, all the information. So technically speaking, BHS is the copy of the Leningrad Codex. So it includes and provides all the information that was previously made by these Majorat scholars. Okay, let's move on. Oh, my mistake. One more time. Where are you? Okay, here. Okay, then now it's time for us to talk about how we are going to understand this Bible and BHS. I just to show you a sample page of BHS. If you go to page 234 in your Bible, Hebrew Bible, BHS. If you have your BHS Bible, then turn to page 234. 234. And you really need your BHS because, as I said, textual criticism is one of the things that you have to do as your assignment. Unfortunately, all the information of BHS is not included in your Bible work. So you really need your BHS Bible, okay? 234. As you can see, you need to understand what it means by all those stuff. Let me just explain to you. Hey, we'll just move on. Okay, here. A is the book title written in Hebrew. Hebrew title, if you pay attention to the Hebrew title, you will notice that it is different from our English title. Actually, 234 is one of the passage of Numbers. Okay, Numbers. Actually, that is chapter 12 and moving to the chapter 13. So, as I said, it is number. Then why is that called Bet Mem Dalet Bet Resh? Actually, Hebrew Bible, the title of Hebrew Bible is coming from the very first word of chapter 1 of the book. Okay, all right. So then guess what? What is the title, Hebrew title of Genesis? It's not Genesis, but you said Bereshit. So that is the Hebrew, official Hebrew title, okay? So now you need to understand how we could come up with this Hebrew title. So that is different from the English title. And then B, let's move on to B. Then you can see that the Samek, the sign of Samek there, here, and that means that is called septuma, which means close. And then you need to go to C. Where is the C? Here. C, and you see that there is a fe sign there, then it is called petuma. So that means open. It has something to do with a paragraph. So whenever you see petua, then that means a beginning of a paragraph, and septuma is the end of a paragraph. Okay. And let's talk about G. If you go to G, then you have two signs there, one samek and then one parish. Actually, Seder and Parasha, they are the technical terms referring to the division of Torah. So as you know, that Torah was decided by the Hebrew people. Whenever they celebrate their Jewish feast, people read the Bible. And then they needed to divide the Torah, according to their, the cycle. So as you can see, the Seder and Parasha, they have the same function in terms of making division. of the total. But Seder makes 167 divisions. And then Parasha makes 54 divisions of the Torah. Okay, that is only the difference. As you can see that that has something to do with an 1 year liturgical cycle. Okay, everything is very clear. Let me move on. I think this is not really good. Give me a second, okay? Let me put it with another one. Okay. Oh, what's wrong? Okay, got it. Wait a minute. Okay. What am I supposed to do? Download. Come on. Okay, let's go. Forget about it. Oh, come on. I need to save my time. This device, documents, download, stories. Maybe stories then. Okay, there we go. Sorry. Yeah, it's coming. Is this better? Okay, this is better. Okay, yeah. Okay, let's move on. Okay, now I just we dealt with page 234. Then we are going to move on to another page 141 in your BHS 141. Okay, actually, if you can see 140 and 141 looks a little bit different. In terms of title, on the right side, you have Hebrew title, and on the left side, you have Latin title. So now, as you can see here, A is Latin title, Exodus. Now, most importantly, you need to pay a great deal of attention to the other stuff that I'm going to talk about. Let's talk about B. This entire section, okay, on the left side, on the right side, is called MP, okay, which is the abbreviation of Masura Parva. Okay, say Masura Parva. Okay, I can hear you, right? Don't worry. Masura Parva. So called the small Masura, actually, and you know that the Masura comes from the word Masoretic and Masura. So it has something to do with the Masoret scholars, and mostly written in Aramaic and some in Hebrew. Unfortunately, we don't know how to read Aramaic, and I don't have much, information and knowledge about Aramaic. But this Aramaic is not really that important in terms of information. So in Hebrew 3, we are not going to pay a great deal of attention to Aramaic. But if you have the simply guided to BHS, which is one of our textbooks, you will be able to see what it means by all those Aramaic. Okay, but there are a couple of things that you have to understand. I'm going to explain about it. So This one consists of word use, statistics, and reference to the captive carrier readings. One more time. MP, Masura Power, consists of word use, statistics. So it provides us a statistic. What do you mean by statistic? You know, let me draw your attention to something here. You can see the letters. You know, the letters look like Hebrew, isn't it? Hebrew letters, but that's Aramaic. But if you really closely look at the letter, there are some letters that have a dot, one dot on it. Can you see that? If you have your Bible, just to go to it and look at this here, you see that it has a lamed, and it's not simply lamed here on top. Lamed, 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 but lamed, all those three lameds have a dot on it. So whenever you have one letter that has a dot on it, that refers to a number. So now, as I said, it provides a statistic information. So it tells us how many times the words have previously appeared. So now, then, does it make sense? How is that this Masura Power provides us? Okay, Masura Paba provides us all the information of the statistic of the usage of the word. So of course not. It doesn't provide every single word, but whenever you have a word that seems to be appearing with quite low frequency of the usage, I mean in terms of the usage. So let's say if you go down there, here, we have another letter, bet, something like looks like bet, and it has one dot. So if you have lamet, and I think I need to show you this one. I think this is the better explanation. Hafax legomenon. Sorry, I couldn't put lamet here, but it is supposed to lamet with a dot over it, and then that is this one, lamet. Can you see that? Okay. With a dot, that means there is no other. This means there is no other. Notes groups of words that occur only once. So lamed with a dot means, okay, this word didn't appear previously. That means the word is used for the first time here. Can you understand? So then which word? As you can see that we have three dots here, three lamed, and we need to have words that has a small circle on it. Can you see this word, the second word in your BHS page 141, Bethlehem, has a small circle on it. Can you see that? Right above the resh. Can you see it? And then the second one is just after verse 16, and it has a small circle above Lamed. Can you see that? And another one here in between this Maaseh Elohim. So it refers to, so whenever you have this circle, then you need to look at the information provided in the Master Power. So it refers to those words taking a small circle over it. Can you understand? So it doesn't refer to the first word. Okay? Can you understand? Then go down to this Hafax Regminon, and where can you see which is the word that is just appearing here for the first time? You can see this word to the second, I mean to the second to the last has the circle over it. Can you see that? And it refers to the word. So the word just appeared for the first time. Do you understand the function of Hapax Regmenon? Okay. All right. And anything. Oh, by the way, bet means the word appears for the second time. Okay. And then Gimel with the dot over it means the word appears for the third time. So when it goes over certain number like 5 times, 6 times, they will not include those information because it's no longer special at all. Do you understand? Okay. And another word that you need to pay attention to is this C. If you pay attention to C, then it has what is it? Cough with one dot over it. Can you see that? Cough here. Cough. So you really need your PHS Bible. Okay, if you look at it, it is cough, but one small dot is appearing over it. And it is not a number, but it is called kere. You need to really remember this. This is really important. Kere. So kere, cough with a dot over it, it means what is to be read. Suggestion for correction. Okay, as I said, when the majority scholars copied the manuscript, they could see an obvious error. So instead of correcting it in the passage, they put the information that, oh, it must be wrong. And their recommendation is written on the left margin or right margin. So whenever you see cup with a dot over it, it is called kere. Okay, and it provides the information of the majoristic suggestion. So then what words is it? What words is it? And of course you need to look at the word that takes a small circle over it. Where is it? Here. Mi yadav. Mi yadav has one circle. Where is it? Okay, here. Mi yadav has a small circle over it. Okay, and you cannot see any words taking the circle over it in this line. Can you see how to find the word? Okay, so you need to see the word taking a small circle over it. Okay, so this word is mi yadav, but according to the suggestion of majority scholars, that is a mistake. So their suggestion is not mi yadav, but they said mi yadaivu. So they insert yod between the last vav and dalet. So they said, oh no, it's a manuscriptal error. Okay, can you understand? So you don't need to understand what it means by meiya dive. We are going to talk about it later. But what is really important here is that kere is providing us an extra information about the suggestion of majority scholars, saying, oh, the written word in the text is an obvious error. Can you understand the function of kere? Okay, actually, the information of kere is it provided in the Bible Works 8. If you use, I don't know, have you ever seen an or a word put into a parenthesis? Have you ever noticed that before? If you see one word put inside the parenthesis, and then you will see that another word right beside that put inside the bracket. So that means one is kere and the other one is ketiv. So what is the difference between kere and ketiv? Kere is a suggestive word. So it will normally appear in the extra margin like Masura Pavar. But ketiv is the original written word. So what is the ketiv here? The word that is taking the circle. So in this case, ketiv is, where are you? Yeah, this one. Mi yadav. So the written word is ketiv. And then the suggested word by the majority scholar is called kere. That's why it starts with kof. So can you see the difference between kere and ketiv?
Sir, may I ask a question about this?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so the majority scholars they suggested this error in this text. So do they suggest this one based on comparing to other manuscripts?
No, actually, sometimes they do, or sometimes they do not. Uh, when they suggest this recommendation or correction, it's simply because of their fluent ability. Because, when the manuscript was being transmitted, actually, it was not from original manuscript. It was kind of oral tradition in the beginning. And then there was a certain stage that, Jewish people wrote the first Bible. I think it's not whole Bible, but a chapter or certain, books of the Bible. So now, sometimes it has something to do with textual criticism. So they provide different witnesses of various manuscript and versions. So this is what we're going to talk about today. So at the bottom, at the bottom, let me show you. At the bottom, you have E section there. And then it is the extra information in terms of different variant readings of different versions and manuscripts. So whenever you need to deal with the textual criticism, then you need to deal with this E section. Okay, then I am going to explain how to use the section. But thank you for the question, Phineas. So my answer is sometimes you may not be able to see the reason, but it's very obvious. Like we are going to talk about it later, but you will agree with them. There is no way for the word to be used as it is in the text. Okay, it must be quite obvious one. And sometimes it could be a problematic and tricky issue. Then in that case, you will see different kinds of information provided in the bottom section. Okay, so
Thank you.
please try to understand what it means by all those information. The most importantly, they provide the statistical information, and then above all, you need to pay a great deal of attention to kere. Okay, because reading this Bible, you are supposed to read from the suggested word, which is called kere. Okay, can I move on? Is that clear? Okay, let me move on. So now I'm just showing you another one. As you can see that this is the better explanation. The word circled here. No, come on. No, no, no. Okay, I highlight this one. You can see that this word is coming together with a small circle over it. So whenever you have a small circle over it, you need to go to the left side or right side, which is called Masura Pava, MP. And you see that this word has something to do with information. So this is appearing with bet and then small dot over it. You cannot see it. So you can see that this word is appearing for the second time. So this is a statistical information. Okay. All right. Let me move on. Okay. Oh, all right. This one. Talking about this, can you see this is another example of kere? As I said, this cup with a small dot, you can see the small dot. Then what do you need to do? Go to the space where you can find the circle. Then this kere has something to do with this cut. So the written word in the text is called what? Ketiv. Okay, so this is captive. And then the suggestion is kere. So what is the difference? The written captive is ekatu. So the last one is taf, and then this one is dalet, the last one. Can you see? Above this kere, you can see alep, ket, and dalet. Can you see that? All right. The suggestion is the taf at the end of this word must be an obvious error. What do you mean by ekatu and ekatu? Ekatu is an adjective meaning what? One, right? Ekadu is also referring to one. But what is the difference between them? The gender. Okay, ekat is feminine, ekat is masculine. So they see that this ekat is modifying the preceding noun, which is rotem. So rotem is what? Rodem, tree. Rotem tree. Okay. So rodem is a noun, masculine noun. So they see that, oh, this is feminine. No, must be masculine. Why? Because the rodem is masculine noun. So should be modified by masculine adjective. Do you see that? So it's quite very basic and obvious error. So they instead of changing top to dalet, they just put their recommendation. See, they are so careful to preserve the written Bible. So that is it. So you need to understand what is the difference, what the differences are in terms of rotem and kere, the recommendation of measurements. Okay, can I move on? All right. And then it's a time for us to pay attention to the final Masora. Actually, final Masora is something that you can see at the end of each book. If you, for example, dealing with the Torah and Genesis, and then just to go to the last page of Genesis. Which page is it, by the way? Page 85. Page 85. Page 85. Let me just show you. If we go to page 85, which is the last page of Genesis, then you will see this section. And this is called Final Masora. And it provides us the statistic of the works. As I said, it's amazing for the majority scholar to count each word, how many words we have in Genesis. So it provides those information. Okay. And sometimes they provide the information of where is the midpoint and those information. Okay? So you need to understand the function of final Masora. So it is called final Masora. Okay, let me move on. So is it located at the end of a book or after a certain section of the text? So contains the number of words, verses, letters in a book, and the middle word of a book for accuracy in the transmission of the text. Okay, so as an example, you can take a look at 353 of VHS. So it says there are 955 verses. The midpoint falls on PR in Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 10 on page 317. And Torah has 5,845 verses, 79,856 words, and 400,945 letters. Amazing. It's amazing. Uh, if you feel bored, go ahead to count the words to see how accurately it was counted. Okay, and please let me know if you have different opinion. I'm going to write another paper, okay, based on your research.
Sir,
That will be okay.
I have one question. Actually, I heard one time about the preservation of the scripture,
Mm-hmm.
the alphanumeric number that is Hebrew and Greek and Latin. Just like
Mm-hmm.
example, like Aleph number one, Dalet like number two or four, like that.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So those kind of explanation, when I hear the numbers of these letterings, actually is the numbers of the letters is not the alphabetical no the letters Aleph like number one and Beit number
Uh-huh.
two is so
Uh-huh.
if if I hear today's explanation, sir, I think it's somewhat
You
it's
want to
like
know how to read the numbers?
so actually I understood this so far, like
Uh-huh.
when they preserved the Old Testament and
Right.
also from the mistakes by
Uh-huh.
counting this number. But
Uh-huh.
today's, as I hear your explanation, is actually the number of the letters. So, so in that sense, is that wrong, sir? So far, actually, when I heard like the number of like example, like uh, David, like a Dalet and Dalet or something. So actually, it's a number of 14. They are telling like that way. So there is a how they preserved the Old Testament is like having no any mistakes like that.
Well, I don't know if I could clearly understand your question, but anyway, if you really look at the Masra final, okay,
Yes.
and you can see that there are numeral, what is system. So
Yes.
whenever we have the alphabet with a dot, then it's not letter, but it's number. So I think if you have your BHS guide, let me show you this. This book, okay, go to the back page and it provides the information of numbers. So as you can see that Aleph with
Oh,
the dalet means one. Bet
yes, sir.
with
Yeah.
that is two. So the first one provides the number
Oh, yes, sir.
10.
Yeah.
As in this one is tens and 100 and 1000s. So if you go to your EHS page on 85, then you will see something similar here. All the dots with letters. They are numbers. So as I said, the information of the statistic value is not just about, let me show you. So the information provided by the final surah, which is at the last page of each book, is verses, with the point, and something like that. So numbers of words and verses and letters. Okay. So going back to the question of Phineas, and I don't know if I answer your question. Then what was your question? Is it clear?
uh, yeah, I can understand your point, sir. But just like a while back, the Genesis, the very last part of this statistics or the survey of the letters. So
Uh
these
huh.
letters, it is telling about the number of the letters. Is it, sir? The how many
Yeah. Right.
letters in the Genesis?
Okay. It's not really letters. I sorry. I think it's a verses and words. It's not letters, but words and
Okay.
verses. Okay.
And then just a while
And
back, as
okay.
you, okay, sir. You showed the at the back of the number of the each alphabet,
Uh huh.
and then those like when they copied, then they also check the number of those what's that
Words. Right.
the words, and then so a while back as we saw, like the Masoretic scholars, they are suggesting the last word tav, but
Uh
where they
huh.
are suggesting
Uh huh.
actually the same the what's that the gender agreement
Yeah.
for
Right.
the sake.
Yeah.
So
Right.
if it is Dalet, actually the number will totally be changed. And so I think
Okay, now I understand. But anyway, when they counted the word, I think they didn't count their suggestion. They just counted the written words.
okay,
Is that answer?
okay, so
I sorry, I couldn't really understand your question. Probably you can ask me this question later.
Okay,
Probably
sir.
individually, perhaps we can better communication in Korean. So I will let you know. But anyway, so the significance of Masura, final Masura is that it provides a statistics of words. Okay, so that we can preserve the Bible in a good way. Okay.
Okay,
But
sir.
once again, when they counted, they didn't count their own suggestion, but they simply counted the written words. Okay, that is the point. So, okay, as long as you understand the function of final masura, then let's move on. Okay, coming back to the page again for 141, it's time to talk about D section and E section. In fact, this section is not really important. This section is called Masura Magna Register. So MM is called the large Masura. So when you say large Masura, it has something to do with the small Masura. So MM in measure is an expanded Masura power. Okay, so it's extended one. So consists of a list of words somewhat resembling a concordance. So it provides another statistic value of the usage of the words. Okay, and then MM is not included in PHS text, but published in a separate volume titled Masura Gedola. So you need, if you are quite interested about all those further information, then you need to have Masura Gedola. But it's not really significant if you are not really into the area of textual criticism. Actually, we don't even apply this. So what really matters in our classroom is section E. So anyway, only the first volume of Masra Gadola was ever published. So it's incomplete. So you cannot be really dependent on those information yet. So then let's talk about E section, which is called textual apparatus. Say textual apparatus.
Professor,
Yeah.
sorry, just on the final Mazara. So they do
Uh-huh.
count the letters in. They did have a count of the letters in each section and chapter.
Each chapter? No, they
I
don't
mean,
provide.
sorry, each book.
Yeah, yeah.
So if they did make a count of the letters, then why were there still mistakes? Like, because if the count comes out right, it should be the same wording from time to time. But why would there be like mistakes and stuff like that?
All right, thank you for the question. Unfortunately, when majority scholars are copying, they are simply dependent on the available manuscripts and versions. Am I right? So it's not always the same. How can I say? So they want to just prevent the fact that okay, when I'm writing, actually there might be some mistakes in the process of copying. So when they are writing, they counted it, but it could be different in a sense. It's just a bit hard to explain.
Could it be possible
Uh,
that they started counting it later, like way after they probably had the original text and then they started counting it like at a later time?
So actually,
Or
when they are writing or copying, actually they didn't have enough information. So Masura, the information of Masura final Masura is commented by Masoretic scholars, which means before their time, nobody has tried to count it. So by the time that they counted it, there was no any counterpart to be compared with. So in a sense, I understand your point, but it is the convention or invention of Masoretic scholars. That's why they couldn't really compare it. But we can compare the Leningrad Codex, which is the work of Masoretic scholars, to the later version in that sense. Okay, but we need to deal with which Bible have uh, the much more authority. As I said, we have different manuscripts. All over the near ancient Near East area. Actually they have different versions and scrabbles, and they have different word choices. Then how can you say that which one is the first one? So as we are looking at BHS as the what is the first compiled and complete Old Testament Bible, but it doesn't mean that it should be the original text. So they need to always deal with different manuscripts, and like Qumran or Septuagint. It's quite interesting. So that's why textual criticism is a huge area. Okay. All right. Thank you, Samson. Let's move on. Textual apparatus indicates portion where other manuscripts or versions differ, or where scholarly research brings the BHS text into question. So you need to understand all the signs and versions of uh, this texture apparatus. So as I can see, uh, there are a lot of signs there, but can you interpret it? Without understanding what it means by all those signs, you cannot really interpret it. So you need to consult this book. And it is a very simplified guide, and it provides the English key to the Latin and some signs. So we are going to briefly talk about it, and it is a part of our ongoing lesson. So, but anyway, just understand that each section provides the information of textual criticism. So it is called textual apparatus. So this is also made by Masoretic scholars. So whenever they dealt with different, what is it, uh, word choice, that is different word choice from what they are using, then they wanted you to include those information. Okay, Septuagint and Samaritan Pentateuch or Targum. Okay, those versions and manuscripts have different word choice than they normally included. Okay, so when it comes to your assignment for textual criticism, then you need to pay attention to the E section, that is the most important part, and also B section. Okay, it is relevantly less important than E section. Okay, then let's move on. So now don't try to understand what it means by all those signs. We are going to deal with it later. But anyway, just understand the functions of each space. Okay, it's a section. Special points, unusual letters, and other marks. I didn't provide all the details, but some of the important stuffs are included here. Okay, large letters for the first word of a book or section to be enlarged. And I think I gave you just a little introduction of VHS and explaining why we need to read the Hebrew Bible. And then you saw enlarged letters. Okay, this is something like this. So to draw attention to statistical points such as the large Vav in Leviticus 11:42, indicating midpoint of the Torah, or to call attention to an important passage or one in Deuteronomy chapter 6:4. And these two passages are used as I explained the importance of reading Hebrew Bible. Okay, small letters for similar to the large letters in Isaiah chapter 44, verse 14. So if you read Hebrew Bible, you can see it and recognize them. Red letters, no obvious reason. And as an example, Nun in George 18:30, Ayin in Psalm 80:14. So when majority scholars copy uh, the manuscript, they realize that there are certain letters which are relevantly small or smaller or bigger, and they didn't change the font size. They tried to copy as it is, but and yet they didn't even know. And even the most of majority, I need to say the outstanding Hebrew scholars don't know why, especially when it comes to the purpose of raised letters. Okay, sop pasuk signifies the end of verses. Pasek, the separate two words. It is related to accentual system. So if you read the Hebrew Bible, there are a lot of signs above letters and under the letters. It's really confusing, but it has something to do that, what is it, reciting these specific verses. So when people are reading it, they really pay attention to the location of accent, the speed, where to stop and where to start reading, and all those things. Okay, and they, majority scholar, understanding the oral tradition well, they really try to even include those information. Okay, and anything may take a short vertical stroke under the word, blah blah and lape. So just to read it, it provides general information of the function of some important marks and signs. Very quickly, okay, then why is it important for us to do with BHS? That's the question. And we have another Hebrew Bible called BHK and BHQ. But why BHS? Biblia Hebraica Strugartensia. Origin, the Leningrad Codex. Uh, in other words, it may be called B19A. That is another professional name of Leningrad Codex. So you need to be familiar with both Leningrad Codex and B19A. So one of the important Masoretic manuscripts dated from AD 1008 contents all of close to Ben Arshur tradition, but not as close as Aleppo Codex in terms of vowel letters and the use of metek. A basis for BHK, third edition, and BHS. So now you can see the BHK has three versions: the first edition, second edition, but BHK third edition, excuse me, and BHS are based on Leningrad Codex. So when it comes to the basis of BHK first edition and second edition, it's not Leningrad Codex. Look at it. BHK and BHS, BHK 1 and 2, Jacob Ben Haim tradition. So it's not Ben Arsha tradition. It's another tradition, okay, based on the second rabbinic Bible. So now, as you can see, the BHS and BHK third editions are based on Leningrad Codex, but BHK 1 and 2 are based on second rabbinic Bible, which is called the Bombongo edition in 1524. Then let's talk about it. And historically speaking, we are not quite, what is it? We didn't have other manuscripts. So later we could find other manuscripts like Qumran, such an important manuscript, but it was found quite lately. So when people started writing or translating or make Hebrew Bible, actually they had quite limited access to the manuscripts. So when they could find other extra important manuscript, they started it, making the Hebrew Bible based on the more reliable resources. That's why they tend to change, the tradition. So that is the deep tradition. Okay, the Benheim tradition and Ben Asher tradition. That's the point. But let me just show you this. Ben, based on the regular, look at this, 20,000 and to 30,000 difference from that of BHK 1 and 2. Some people may say, Pastor, how come is that, the Bible is different? And can you still see the authority of the Bible when we struggle to know which one should be the right one? And look at this, 20,000 or 30,000 words? And which one is right? And where is the authority? Don't complain to me. But my answer is this. Then how many words are the same? Okay, my question is, it's only 20,000 or 30,000, but how many words are identical? Can you see? They have all different tradition, Christian tradition, you know, Jewish, and then in Tal. But isn't that amazing? They had these amazing manuscripts, their own tradition, but it has only 20,000 difference. Then I'm amazed to see how carefully and accurately, the Hebrew manuscripts were preserved. Okay, so but anyway, when it comes to 20,000, 30,000, it's not my job. If you're interested, go ahead to just deal with for your further studies. Okay, but anyway, we can be thankful for the identical part, which is far more than this difference. BHK3 and BHS, just to read it. Okay. Oh, that's it. Because I need to stop because I don't want to spend much time for the information itself. We need to really get into the practical side. So let me move on to um, the second PowerPoint. Okay, textual criticism. We will deal with the textual criticism today, and it will be a part of your assignment. Textual criticism. Are you all okay? Let me see your face. Okay, seems like everybody is okay. You're not sleeping. Okay. Textual criticism. If you have a Bible with you, would you turn your Bible to Hosea chapter 7, verse 14? Hosea chapter 7, verse 14. I'm going to show you here. If you don't have, it's okay. Uh, James, can you read KJV, Kim Jun version?
Yes, sir. And they have not cried unto me with their heart when they have upon their beds. They assemble themselves for corn and wine, and they rebel against me.
NAS.
And they do not cry to me from their heart when they wail on their beds. For the sake of grain and new wine, they assemble themselves. They turn away from me.
NIV.
They do not cry out to me from their hearts, but wail upon their beds. They gather together for grain and new wine, but turn away from me.
Okay, let's move on to Brother Romero. Can you read NLT, please? RSV and YLT.
They do not cry out to me with sincere heart. Instead, they sit on their couches and wail. They cut themselves, begging foreign gods for grain and new wine, and they turn away from me. RSV, they do not cry to me from the heart, but they wail up on their beds. For grain and wine, they gush themselves, they rebel against me. YLT, and have not cried unto me with their heart, but howl on their beds. For corn and new wine, they assemble themselves, they turn against me. They turn aside against me.
Okay, so as I highlight on the word in red, what is the difference? Can you see the consistency there? Can you see the difference? As you can say, that the meaning of assembling themselves is quite different from cutting themselves or gash themselves, isn't it? It's not simply about the better choice of a word. Sometimes when you see this comparison between different English translations, you will see different word choice, but they have similar connotation, right? But like this, you can see that it's a totally different meaning. And why and how. This one is one of the passages where we can see the importance of textual criticism. And the reason why we have different word choices is because of this textual variant reading. We are going to deal with it. So now, what is the significance of the theological significance of each translation? Can you see? When you say they assemble themselves for corn and wine, what is the idea? And what is the different theological connotation when you say they cut themselves begging foreign gods for grain and new wine? Actually, NLT has the choice of cut themselves, but begging foreign gods for grain. So foreign gods is a additional interpretation, inclusion. So in terms of literal translation, I think we cannot really see it here. So look at YLT. They assemble themselves for corn and new wine. Okay, anyway, what is the significance of the theological connotation in terms of the difference between them? Can you recognize anything there? What is the idea when you say assemble themselves? It's very simple. Don't too much think deeply. Okay, when you say assemble, it doesn't provide the what is it the specific uh, more idea of what is really going on. Do you understand? People just together. But here, if you see the cut themselves and gash themselves, then you can see that this is something like the pagan worship. Do you remember the story of the battle between what is it the Elijah and then the prophets Baal and Asherah? And you remember it's the first King 18. We will come back to this story, but there people, the prophets of Baal and Asherah, cut themselves, and then bloody sin. So now it's totally different. Even when you say they assemble themselves for corn, then you cannot see the idea of pagan worship there. Just people can put it just together and then ask for corn and wine, and they are just they're taking care of them, okay, for corn and wine. But this variant reading of cutting themselves or gashing themselves implies the idea that they did something hard, and it has something to do with this kind of pagan worship ritual. So now you can see the significant difference. Can you see that?
Were they getting it from the same manuscript or something, or did like somebody
Yes,
just research?
I was waiting for that question. Now it's time to jump into that discussion. It seems like you are excited about knowing this. Okay, then that is the purpose of my putting this slide here. Let me move on. If we look at Hosea chapter 7 and page 999, go to page 999 if you have VHS. And then the verse is what? Verse 7, chapter 7, verse 14. So you go to verse 14, and I'm going to show you verse 14 here. See, verse 14. And starting of the beginning of verse 14 is here, and it goes until here. So it has two lines. And as you can see, it has some letters, A, B, C. So those words that comes with English alphabet, such as A, B, C, are the letters leading you to the information of textual criticism in the bottom. Okay, we call it textual apparatus. So if you go down to the section, bottom section, then you will see the information. Now, I'm going to show you it. Where are you? I think I put it back there. Okay, here. As I said, you can see that this is all the information. And as you can see that the first one, ah, no, 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 no. Come on. What am I supposed to do? Okay, all right. Okay, look at this. Each information contains those things, A, B, C. So whenever you see A, B, C in a certain verse, go down and then go to the specific part. So when you see 12a, then in verse 12, you have a word that has the letter A. And it is the information of the specific word in terms of textual criticism. Okay? So now you need to understand how it works. So then let's talk about the specific part. Actually, that is 14. Let me. That is the word 14 and come on. Here, C. Actually, the translation of what the word it is it gathering or assembling or cutting yourself has something to do with this. So it is verse 14 and C. So if you want to get the information of the word in terms of textual criticism, then go down and look at verse 14 and let the C. That's what you need to do. Then let's do that. Where is verse 14? Verse 14 is here, but this one is B, C. So you need to look at C. Then these are the information that you need to look at. Then how can you interpret it? What do you mean by L, C, NONN, MSS, and then this sign, and this Greek, this one, this one, this one? Everything is provided in your Simply Guide to BHS. Okay. Uh, I think I uploaded this English key to Latin. So you need to go to the specific part. So I will come back to this one. So if you are really curious about how to understand the variant reading between the interpretations of assembling and cutting themselves, hold on. It'll it'll come soon. Okay. Let's move on. So now, as long as you understand how all those sections are working in terms of textual criticism, then we're okay. All right. Okay, let's move on. Okay, then I'm going to tell you something important about textual criticism. I will move very quickly. Kanae, could you read the slide?
Yes. A inspiration. Textual criticism is sometimes viewed as somehow opposed to the traditional teaching about the inspiration and authority of the Old Testament. Most evangelical statements on the inspiration of Scripture refer in some way to the autographs. However,
Okay.
no one today has direct access to any of the autographs of Scripture. None of our current text or versions is identical to the autographs either. There is no chapter of the Bible for which all ancient manuscripts have exactly the same wording. But the Old Testament student must also realize that the Hebrew text has been transmitted with great care. Errors will be found in the study of the text, but they are not so numerous or so crucial that they destroy its basic credibility.
Okay, so it's kind of a general idea of how important it is for us to understand the value of textual criticism without nullifying the concept of inspiration. So I believe when you're talking about the issue of inspiration, people are quite confused, as if they are talking about the issue. I mean, if we have the autograph, which means the original Bible, the first Bible, then problem is solved. But the problem is we don't have autographs, the original copy, but we have all different kinds of variant readings, manuscript, and versions. So how are you going to understand the concept of inspiration? It is the literal letter of the original text. Rather, I need to emphasize the inspirational process of the transmission of the Bible. So we need to value how the Bible was transmitted. So God's anointing is there. And although we can find some variant readings and different witness and different word choice, don't panic. And it's not really harming the authority of the Bible. But it is true that we also need to, as a scholar, need to do our best in trying to understand which word should be more recommendable. But with the carefulness, like the way the majority scholars dealt with the Bible. Isn't it amazing? They are professional. They speak the language. They understand the oral tradition. But whenever they understood, oh, it's obvious error, they didn't change it. Why? Because they believe it is inspired words of God. And they are so afraid of changing anything. So you can see how carefully and nicely our Bible was preserved. Okay, let's move on. And need. Let's read. Brother Pierce, can you read, please?
The production of the Old Testament scriptures had been done in a vast time period, Moses 1400 BC to Malachi 400 BC. The hand copying, as the sole means of textual transmission, continued from the end of the Old Testament epoch until the invention of the printing press in the 15th century AD, 1488 in Italy. This means that the oldest parts of the Old Testament were transmitted by hand, copying for nearly 3,000 years. The 90% or more of the text exists without variation. However, there is about one textual note in BHS for 10 words. What are we going to do with 10% of variant reading? At least we need to determine what the most recommended for acceptable reading is.
Okay, okay. We are attacked by, I don't know,
Chickens.
or we are blessed to have a heavenly noise. I need to say it that way. All right, anyway, thank you. But your voice was so clear enough, Pierce, as a native speaker. Appreciate it. So yeah, that is the basic need for the textual criticism. We understand that the Bible has been preserved in a careful way, and then 90% or more than 90% of the text exists without variation. That's amazing. That's amazing. Different people, different Christian groups, different area, they copy, and more than 90% is identical. It's something special. You should focus on 10% variance, and most of 10% is not really significant difference anyway. So yeah, so let's move on. So while it is important to recognize the possible existence of errors in the ancient manuscripts, early translations and even modern editions, this in no way destroys the credibility of the inspired scriptures. whether or the Old or New Testaments. Surely anyone who affirms the inspiration and authority of the scripture should be most interested in discovering which one of the several variants in extant text represents the original wording of scripture. It seems only proper to define inspiration in terms of the autographs. So remember, we don't deal with autographs, but only manuscripts and versions. Textual criticism focuses on the textual transmission of the Hebrew text. Okay, the focus is the transmission of Hebrew Bible. The text critic will be simply expressed as the attempt to discover the best text. Okay, one more time, the best text. Don't be confused, as if we can find the original text. Such an arrogant word. If you say the original text, no one knows. That's why we need to be humble. Okay, let's just talk about Hebrew transmission of the Old Testament. It's very informational, but just to briefly understand. Prior to 300 BC, individual books written and copied on scrolls and revision of Hebrew grammar after 1350 BC, introduction of some vowel letters, spelling changes, occasional crowding, sometimes Mars word division, change from archaic script to square script, from 300 BC to AD 135, development of the text types, of Proto-Masoretic text. Okay, just to understand. Okay, yeah, very informational. Okay, and AD 135 to AD 1000, Talmudic period, book form for private copy, scroll for synagogues, verses, paragraph, and liturgical division was made between this time. So when the Bible was first copied, there was no division of Bible verses. Okay, so avoidance of in delicate expression and Masoretic period, which is quite important, AD 500 to 1000. Written vowel system. So vowel system is quite lately included. Okay, accent system also. So it has something to do with the efforts of Masoretic scholars to preserve the manuscript of the Hebrew Bible. So Masoretic notes and Ketiv and Kere finalized. So as you can see, that the vowel system, accent system, and Masoretic notes and Ketiv, Kere, they are all made by the Masoretic scholars. So that is quite a significant period in terms of Hebrew text. From AD 1000 to AD 14,050, transmission of a Masoretic text, invention of printing press, printed editions, modern critical editions such as BHS, and the Hebrew University Bible Project. Okay, that is the very simple overview of the transmission of Hebrew Bible. This is important for your textual criticism. Okay, the order of significant manuscripts and versions. So of course, whatever comes in the beginning takes higher value. Okay, so the most important thing is Qumran. Why? Because it is one of the oldest manuscript, but it was relatively lately found. Okay, so in terms of writing or making Hebrew Bible, since we found this important manuscript, it just changed the whole system of Hebrew Bible. Transmission, or the interpretation of English Bible. So it made huge change. But anyway, number one, Masoretic text. Number two, Samaritan Pentateuch. Septuagint is a Hebrew Bible written on the Old Testament. Okay, so Septuagint is written in Greek, but the content is not New Testament, but the Old Testament. So you will see that a lot of Hebrew scholars value this Septuagint. And they will say, oh, Septuagint support this. So we need to stay with this. That's how important it is. Okay. So Septuagint is important because it is also quite old version. You see, it was written in 150 BC. That's amazing. So some people may say Septuagint has much more significant value than Qumran. They can say that, but in my opinion, Qumran is more important to me because in the process of translating Hebrew Bible to Greek, it is translation. So in the sense, it's impossible for the people to carry the 100% 13 nuance of Hebrew language, since it is translation. Do you understand? But in terms of the date of composition, it's so important. And then it was widely spread. So in the sense, I want to say Septuagint is quite important. Aquila after LXX. By the way, LXX is another name of Septuagint. The first Greek version mid-century, Symmachus and Theodosian, Syriac, Targum, Vulgate, Old Latin, and Shahidi, Coptic, Ethiopic, Arabic, Armenian. They are all different names of manuscripts and versions. Okay. Let me move on. But anyway, you will be able to look at this. One of the things that you need to pay attention to is the date of composition. Okay. So of course, when it comes to the effort to see which one has more or better authority. Okay, you are dealing with two different possibilities of translations because of the variant reading. Like the way I just explained, we will come to this one anyway as a concrete example. We need to really see that, okay, this word choice was adopted by like Qumran, and then the letter B, I mean another letter was accepted by, let's say, Aquila or majority text. Then in terms of the date of composition, then I want to say Qumran will take much more value because it is older translation, I mean older manuscript. So there will be some elements that will help you to see which variant reading will take the most highest value. So you need to see which one has older reading, difficult reading, shorter reading, best explanation, and why this geographical support, user style, no doctrinal bias, and total. So these are the elements you will need to pay attention to when you try to know, oh, I'm going to go for this. Then what is the evidence? Okay. Samson, what is the evidence that you choose this variant reading? Then you need to see which one has more value in terms of older reading, typical reading, shorter reading, and blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to give you the detailed explanation on this. Let's go back. Now, I provided all the explanation of the characteristic of some of manuscript and versions. I don't want to really read it through, as you can do it by yourself. Just spend some time to read it, okay? So just information about the characteristic of all, not all, some scripts and versions. And let's look at the signs and versions in our Simply Guide to BHS. I uploaded the English key. Okay, there are some information that I need to highlight. Okay, If you have the English key that I gave you, just to open it and take a look at it. This one. This is the file that I uploaded. So if you take a look at it, and it's a portion of A Simply Guided to BHS, the third edition by Willie Scott. So if you have that one, that's better. But if you don't have it, you can just do your textual criticism based on this. So as we are going back to the passage of Hosea chapter 7, I just draw your attention to the Latin word. So whenever you have a Latin word, then you need to go to the specific part to interpret it. The first word that we had, the letter was L. Then you need to go to L. Where is it? L here. And L, where can you see L? Here. L. This is a abbreviation of LEGE or LEGEN, dumb, which means read or to be read. Okay, this is an example, so you don't need to look at it. If you are curious about usage of L, you can go to Genesis chapter 1, verse 11 and B section. Then it has something to do with L. Okay, so you don't need to really pay attention to this, but L means read. Now you know how to use this English key to Latin. Okay, all right, we will come back to this one. So I'm trying to explain how to use those materials. Okay, and there are some information. I mean, okay, go to the last page. I think this is something that you need to pay attention to. Apart from the Latin words, you need to understand the science of manuscripts and versions. So they will not put the name of each manuscript and version. So instead, they are going to use those signs. Those signs. So if you have this sign, then you need to look at it. Oh, okay, then this one refers to Arabic version of the Old Testament. Oh, one of the most important version is the Septuagint, will be written like this. Can you see that? So you need to know how to interpret even the signs of manuscripts and versions. Unfortunately, this section doesn't provide the all information. So you will be able to see, you may see some signs of manuscripts and versions that are not really explained in this page. Then what do you need to do? You go to your PHS, and then in the beginning, it provides another information. Look at me. PHS, go to the front page and go to the section, and you will see this section. And it has all the information about different signs of manuscripts and versions, a lot. Okay, so you need your BHS, okay, to do the textual criticism. So these are all the names of different versions and manuscripts of the Hebrew Bible. Okay, all right. Then I think I need to go back to the part that you are curious about. Oh, another thing. Here, the arrangement of or order of Hebrew books is different from our modern English Bible. So you need to be familiar with the different order. Okay. By the way, you will see that this Hebrew Bible is called Torah, Nabim, and Ketubim. So some people may call it, like Jewish people in modern era will call the Bible, especially the Old Testament Bible, as Tanakh. Have you heard about it, Tanakh, before? Tanakh. Tanakh stands for each word. Pa comes from Torah, Na comes from Nabiim, and then K comes from Ketubim. So Torah means the 5 law of Moses. So you will see the 5 books in the beginning. Nabiim means prophet, and then Ketubim means writing. So interestingly, Ketubim will start from Psalm. So the arrangement is different. And this abbreviation of books of the Old Testament is a bit unique. While you can still see the great similarity, but you look at this. As I said, the first one, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Number, Deuteronomy. We don't have any problem. Joshua, and what about this? What is this? How do you think? That's Judge.
Judges.
First Samuel, Second Samuel, and what is this? 1R, 2R. You need to know. That's Kings. So you need to write down this one. R means Kings, because those things will be appearing in the textual apparatus. Okay, then you need to understand. Sometimes in the textual apparatus, the Masoretic scholars draw our attention to another cross biblical reference. Okay, look at this another biblical reference where this word is used, and you need to look at it. So in that sense, Masoretic scholars gave us some recommendation according to the internal evidence, the style. If you look at the style in other reference, then it should be chosen as the more preferred translation, something like that. So you need to understand those abbreviation too. And what is this? How do you think? JES. What is it? Isaiah. Right now, it's quite hard to understand. JES, Isaiah. And JER, Jeremiah. What is it? Ezra? Oh no, should be Ezekiel. Yeah, Ezekiel. Hosea. And this one, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai. And this one is a bit tricky. SACH. Zechariah. I think you need to write down Zechariah. And Malachi is obvious. And look at this. Psalm is appearing here. But see, that's a Ketubim. What about HI? HI is amazing. It's Job. How come HI can be Job? I don't know. But anyway, Job, Proverbs, Ruth. This one is hard. Song of Solomon. Song of Solomon. Have you heard Kohelet before?
Yep.
Kohelet? Yeah. Kohelet is what? Ecclesia.
I mean, yeah.
Ecclesiastes.
Yes. THR is Lamentation, Esther, Daniel, Ezra, Nehemiah, First Chronicles, Second Chronicles. That's it. So I just wanted to let you know that some of the tricky one. So you need to understand. Okay, that's it. That is how we are going to use our English key to Latin and the science of Hebrew Bible and manuscripts. Okay, let me move on. I'm going back to textual criticism. Okay, we are done with this, and I want you to read the characteristic of each manuscript and versions, and it introduced the general information of scribal errors. So confusion of similar letters. Actually, this has something to do with today's passage, Hosea chapter 7. So we will come back to this one. Wrong word division. So as I said in the beginning, there was no division between words. Everything was put together. So by the time that the majority scholars need to divide, the words, then there might be some errors there. Do you understand? So there are a lot of possibility of having terrible errors and wrong assignments of vowels and abbreviation, metathesis, and haplography and deuterography. These are all technical terms describing what kind of mistakes can be taking place in the process of transmission and copying. Okay? So you just read it, and we will be able to come back to one of those issues when we needed to deal with textual criticism with a special reference to Genesis chapter 22, Psalm 37, and Jeremiah verse 17. Verse 17. So these are our plan. So let me quickly teach you how to prioritize the what is it various elements of textual criticism. And the older reading is to be preferred. Of course, older one has more authority. The more difficult reading is to be preferred. Why? Because that is the tendency. When you are copying and you find the original text, okay, the text that you are copying bit hard. So there might be some efforts of people to make it better in terms of making sense. So that is how we prepare difficult reading. Okay. And shorter reading, because a shorter one is it's most likely people tend to add instead of delete or omit, but it doesn't always work. But it serves as a general, very simplified guide. Okay, but anyway, the reading that best explains the other variants is to be preferred. So you need to understand how other variants readings are supporting those things. So it's something to do with how you are going to interpret of the other variant readings. So you can see the best explanation. And the reading with the why this geographical support is to be preferred. What do we mean by why this geographical support? Okay, as I said, if you are dealing with textual criticism, that means you have two different possibility of translations, like today's assembling or cutting themselves. Then assembling is supported by BHS, Leningrad Codex. That's why you have BHS. And as a suggestion of variant reading for textual criticism, you have that another word choice supported by Septuagint, Qumran, and Samaritan Pentateuch, even other manual manuscripts. Then you can see that, oh, since this one is supported by different kinds of manuscripts, it has much support in terms of why this geographical support, because they are all adopted and used from different places. Do you understand? Okay. The reading that is most likely the author's usual style. So when you have a problem, then you need to start reading the whole chapter, or even the beginning from the beginning of this book. You need to read to see the what is the usual pattern writing skill. Okay, so that's it. The reading that does not reflect a doctrinal bias is to be preferred. This is another possibility. When people were copying the Bible, they have their own doctrine. So sometimes they feel like, oh, this idea doesn't support what we believe, okay? Or it doesn't really doesn't make a full sense of a doctrine. So they try to modify the words. It could be possible, Okay, so if you see that, oh, this one is doctrinal bias, it is changed because of the doctrinal bias. If you can recognize it, then you need to what is it, devalue those variation reading. Okay, we are almost done. I think we cannot finish this one today. So I know it's a bit hard, but we will be able to spend much time on this. Okay, we need to work on textual criticism together. Let me just quickly finish this one as we started the textual criticism section with this. As I said, if you read this one again, just go to the Hebrew, English key to Latin, then you will see that L means read. C, okay, let's just go and just find then, let me see. Okay, so let's just do it. L means read, C means weed, N means some, MSS means medieval Hebrew manuscripts, plural. Okay, MS means singular manuscript, MSS plural manuscripts, such as, what is this? Septuagint. As an example of Septuagint, the Septuagint choose this kateten nonto, which means in Hebrew, ya ta gavadadu. So, and ut means, what is it? As in First King 18:28. So as I said, that there was the story of the battle between Elijah and then the prophets of Baal and Asherah. So they said that, okay, according to some manuscripts, like Septuagint, they recommend this. And what is the difference between them? You will see that in the passage, one more time, pay attention to this. The spelling is resh. Can you see that? Resh. So they believe this one is guru or garar, which means assembling. Okay, that's how we could get the translation of assembling. But according to this very reading of Septuagint and other manuscripts, they go for dalet, which is different word, is gadad. And gadad in kit polel stem means gashing yourself or cutting yourself. Do you understand? So now you can understand the variant reading. So now, oh, that is a different variant reading supported by Septuagint and some other medieval manuscripts. Then the question is, what is your choice? In order for you to choose which one is right, then we will quickly go back to the principle that I introduced, this one. So try to find which one is more preferable based on all the reading, difficult reading, shorter reading. And whatever gets more marks, then we will go for it. Okay? But one more time, don't expect that we'll be able to, what is it? The great theologian who can come up with the best analysis of this textual criticism. It's a huge area. So the purpose of doing this is to make you exposed to the issue of textual criticism, okay? So that you can understand what it means by all the discussion of Hebrew scholars When you are writing, when you are reading some, written works by Hebrew scholars, then you need to understand what it means by all those discussion, and that will be our main um, purpose of dealing with this. So now, First King 18:20a, it says, and they cried aloud and cut themselves. As you can see that the word is not resh, but dalet, dalet. So in terms of internal support, the textual criticism, the variant reading suggested, actually the majority scholars suggested that, okay, look at even First King, and it was used with gadat in the hit pious stem. So that's why it is a mistake, scribal errors, that the scribes were confused between dalet and resh, and they could come up with this suggestion. Do you understand how it works? Okay, don't worry. This is the foretaste of our textual criticism lesson that we are going to deal with. So I will be able to teach you more and more, dealing with the specific examples appearing from the passage of Genesis chapter 22 and Psalm 37, Zechariah 17, something like that. Okay? Do you have any question? You have a assignment. Analyze all the verbs of Genesis chapter 22 and translate the whole passage. Due date before the Hebrew class on January 19. Clear? So I think I uploaded the table for the analysis of the verbs. Have you downloaded? Okay, that is a bit different from what I gave last time. Is it same one? Same one? No, anyway, use it. So what I'm expecting is you just find all the verbs and then put the emphasis of the verb the way you did in Hebrew 1 and 2, but indicate which verse has this verb. So in the beginning, before the table, you can start the number of verse number, verse 1, and then it has how many verbs. You just say, let's say if you city, then just put 3 verbs in order. And then when you move on to verse 2, just to start with the number 2, so that we can see that, okay, those verbs belong to verse 1. Okay? So in the analysis table, you just analyze only verbs. And then with another paper, you just put the translation. So you need to put the verse 1 and the translation, verse 2 translation. Do you understand how to do it? Okay, so it is due on Tuesday next week. Sorry, I was filled with the Holy Spirit for 7 minutes. Do you have any question? Do you have any question? Okay, now feeling like, oh, what is this? Probably it's a bit hard, and you may find this lecture a bit hard, but take your time, and then I think I'm going to upload this video to the YouTube channel, and you just take a look at it and read all the PowerPoint carefully. Okay, don't worry, we are going to spend a little time on textual criticism, and it will be given to you as an assignment after you finish the analysis and translation of Genesis chapter 22. And on the Tuesday, we are going to deal with it. We have enough time anyway before giving you the assignment of textual criticism. So what is really important regarding today's lesson is that you need to understand how the different space and sections of Hebrew Bible BHS works, okay? The name and the function, and then how to use those textual apparatus together with this English key to the Latin and the science of manuscript and versions. As long as you understand this, and then the value of textual criticism, then that's it. Okay? So we are done. And I'm going to see you next week. All right. Have a great day. God bless you all.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor.
So